I just had to do a quick video today, even though I've got a bunch of finals to study for. But today is December 10th, 2009, exactly 1 year to go until the theatrical release of Voyage of the Dawn Treader. And this is big for me. I think a lot of Narnia fans, mainly because the release date has changed so many times, the production's been delayed so many times. There's still kind of for a while, there's still been kind of a small part of me that's been like, I'm not sure if I really believe them anymore. And now that there's only 1 year to go, and they finish shooting, it's like, okay, they really are going to release this film in December 2010. And yesterday also, by the way, of course, was the 4-year anniversary of the theatrical release of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And it's hard to believe it's only been 4 years. Here we are with 1 year to go until Voyage of the Dawn Treader comes out. And I mean, like, you know, there's a couple. If you go to NarniaWeb.com, there's 2 articles. The first one is one that I wrote. It's just about just basically setting up all the questions that are in the air right now. Like, what's going to happen now that Fox is in control? Or, well, we don't even know if they're in control. We don't even really know what the terms are. How much say does Fox really have in as far as the film itself, or is it just distribution and marketing like it was at Disney? And Michael Lapid, what's his vision going to be? Basically, was Prince Caspian, the fact that it didn't do very well at the box office, at least not what they were hoping for. Is that just a one-time hiccup because of a bad release date and competition and all this stuff? Or is it really a sign that the franchise is, going downhill? And that's what we'll find out with Dawn Treader, which has a much better release date. If Dawn Treader doesn't do well, then you probably can't just blame it on the release date or anything like that. It's like it probably means the audience really has lost interest in the franchise. And we probably won't see the Silver Chair, which would be really heartbreaking, for me especially. Paul Gum's my favorite character. I want to see the Silver Chair turned into a movie. But basically, if you read that thing, we asked a handful of forum moderators to post their thoughts. There's also a podcast, which Rillian and me and Fantasia Kitty, that's really exciting. She's one of the admins over at Narnia Web. She's in, just talking about our thoughts. And my expectations, I don't have super high expectations for Dawn Treader, but I certainly don't have low ones. I mean, I think Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and Prince Caspian are pretty good films and pretty good adaptations. They're good, but not great. So I'm just going to say I'm not as excited for Dawn Treader as I was for Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe or Caspian. It's just kind of becoming clear that they're not trying to do anything really. Obviously, I'm excited to see it, and I'm anticipating it, absolutely, and I'll be there midnight showing in costume. But as far as what I'm expecting to see, I'm expecting to see another good but not great film. The main reason being that they don't have this attitude of risk-taking we were talking about in the podcast. It's not, let's take a really unique book and a special book and let's try to make a really special movie that no one's ever seen before, It's rather, the attitude is kind of, let's take a really special book and try to turn it into a very conventional film that pretty much follows a lot of the formulas and standards you've seen in past films. And someday I'll post a video about how, exactly how they do that, like in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, where Lewis always writes from, very often will show things from a very different perspective. And in the movie, it's always a very conventional perspective. And they always shift it to the obvious, rather than let's try to do something different. No, that doesn't mean do exactly how the book does it, but this attitude of let's try to show things from a different perspective, kind of like how the book does. Let's try to do something different. And I just don't see that attitude. I see it, let's try to make it as safe and formulaic as possible. And when you're making a movie, movies are expensive. Obviously that makes it's the most commercially realistic thing to do, but it'd be nice if, I'm coming off of one of my favorite books was recently turned into a movie, Watchmen. I've talked about this a couple times on here, just because they took a risk. And they said, not that they were absolutely literally faithful to the book in all areas, certainly not, they made changes to translate things to film, but there was this attitude of, man, the book is so groundbreaking and different, let's try to make a film that doesn't follow any of the conventions, that's just something totally different. And they made something that I think is just brilliant, just a brilliant film, just something else entirely. And I wish they would take that approach with these movies. So I'm just expecting a movie that is good. I'll probably like it, but nothing all that special. So I'm not saying optimistic or pessimistic. I'm expecting a pretty good film, pretty good adaptation. As far as all this controversy, again, here's a good example where Dawn Treader has a really sort of episodic plot, and it's a very episodic story, and that is not inherently uncinematic. There are movies that are very episodic. Finding Nemo's pretty episodic. Forrest Gump is pretty episodic. You know, there have been successful movies that are episodic. It's not that it's inherently uncinematic. It's that, well, that's not very conventional. That doesn't follow the formula. You usually don't have episodic plots. You usually have a logical beginning, middle, end, and a through-line story. So rather than try to change that, which is what it sounds like they're trying to do, I wish they would embrace it and say, okay, this is going to be a different kind of movie. And with Prince Caspian, I understood, you know, the flashbacks and everything. I felt like the way that was done in the book, at the very least sort of in context with the series, with the sort of the cinematic vision of Narnia, that didn't seem very cinematic. I'm not just talking about being commercially successful. I'm just saying, as an art form, it didn't seem like that idea fit in very well to the art of film. So it made sense to change it. With this, I think it could work fine. It's a little risky. You know, what if the audience don't buy into the characters or the story? Then an episodic story would be bad, you know, but you gotta take a risk. You know, I want to see some more risk-taking in this series. Let's try to make different kinds of films. And so with 1 year to go, that's kind of where I am right now. Not optimistic or pessimistic, more pessimistic. I'm just expecting pretty good movie. Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe. I'm starting to really disappointed in this. Again, let's look on the bright side at the same time. Hollywood can do so much worse. It's not like they've completely disregarded the books completely. They're obviously being made by people who are reading the books very closely, want to try to capture the essence of it as much as they can, and you know, be faithful to the basic story and the characters and the themes, which is a gift. You know, especially when we hear rumors about what they were planning on doing with Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe, where they wanted to modernize it and totally make it into just a stupid action fantasy film. So they're not making this big, you know, groundbreaking thing, but at least they're not, you know, totally butchering it either. You know, let's be really grateful for that. Again, first two films, pretty good adaptations. Got to be grateful for that. So 1 year to go. This is where the fun part begins. They're done shooting, and hopefully sometime pretty soon we'll start getting some promotion. We're not really sure since, you know, last time it was Disney, now it's Fox. So we're not sure when they're going to release, you know, footage or posters or pictures or whatever. We've got a few pictures online now. But this should be where the fun part begins. I'm hoping before Christmas we'll get a poster or a video, behind-the-scenes video of some kind, something like that. And so that's it. Sort of really, I consider this, the two stages are over. You know, there was that one stage where it's like, was the movie even going to get made? Which was like 2 years. We didn't even know if it was going to get made and when it was going to be released. And now we got the second stage of shooting and getting sort of a vague, very vague idea where they're going with the story. And now we're entering the next stage, where now the controversy will really begin as we start getting news about changes they made and stuff like that. And so this is where the fun part begins. And also, it's like, this is a fun in that we have a very vague idea, very vague, of kind of what they've done with Dawn Treader a little bit. We've heard about some of the ideas they're talking about, but nothing very concrete. And so this is kind of, you know, ignorance is bliss, really, and said on the podcast. It's just fun to say, right? Fun to kind of imagine right now, what have they done, you know? So I'm kind of trying to enjoy the stage as long as I can, but I thought this would be like a 3-minute video, just because I got to run now and go study, but I just had to mark this 1 year to go, further up and further in.